It is book reading number two. First, you, first book reading is starts from the 11th chapter of my book New Stalinism. If you visit amazon.co.uk, you will find my book New Stalinism, author Irfan Said. And this is the second reading. And the chapter is chapter 11. It is face to face against Islam. So it is the continuity. Second, this is my second reading of the book, which is continuity of the first reading. And this second reading is from the page 214 of my book, and the second part of the book, which is written against Islam and all religions. So its subtitle is 9. As ordered by the Quran, all those are good Muslims who have belief on the unseen. Unseen. You will be an established good Muslim if you tell those lies with force for their application. For a good Muslim, you should be an unquestioned bigot, firm and confident believer of these fake and foolish stories. In Muslim societies, all those kinds of fraudulent religious characters are praised and exalted and honored for their fabrications, and surely they are titled as the scholars of Islam. These scholars are always very cunning and they are the dishonest people of the society. They are always dexterous in fabricating and inventing new stories about religion, and there is no agency to have a check on them or challenge them or to filter out about the truths what they claim, because blindness in the religious belief safeguards them from any test of truth. It is blasphemy to challenge their versions. Either you will be stoned to death for the contempt of Islam, or you will be scorned by the blind followers of believers. These Islamic scholars are the masters of the right and wrong. Unluckily, if you have the nerves to question them, you will be titled as an idolater and a non believer. You will be cursed all around, and your life will be in misery. Subtitle is 10, Psychology of Repetition. Repetition. Established a blind version establish a blind version which had never been experienced by anyone in the past. Stress it strongly and coercively. Make the other people silenced by the use of force and anger. This is what they call as a true believer. Whosoever tries to question them must be dealt with the force of arms. This is the true spirit of the concept of jihad, which they falsely name it as the war of good and evil. Another major defect in Islam is in all the other religions also is that it does not try to prove the concepts with any kind of logic or reason. Islam has an innate hatred of reason and logic. In order to inculcate its dogmas of blindness of belief, Islam, with the combination of force and coercion, resorts to the tactics of repetition. Through the force of repetition and propaganda, they make the people believe the most foolish things as taken to be as the only truths. Islam, in fact, truly understand the human psychology of repetition. With the process of repetition, they establish even the most vulgar and odd lies to be taken as truths. This is the message of cunning Muhammad. There was a young boy who desired to learn something from Plato. He said to Plato to accept him as pupil. Plato answered, "O man, you have to undergo a test to become my pupil. If you pass the test, I will accept you as my pupil." The boy was detained in a dark dungeon and was directed that with closed eyes he will think that on his head there are two big, long horns. The student closed his eyes in the darkness of the whole night and kept on repeating in his mind that he had got two big, long horns on his head. In the morning, when the door was opened, Plato said to the boy, "Come out of the door." But the boy retorted and said, "No, sir, I cannot come out because my two big horns are entangled in the door." Plato was happy and accepted him as pupil. The same story is also true about Islam. Islamic thinkers were clever enough to learn the lesson from the same kind of thinking. They adopted the same method in their teaching. All their followers are with two big imaginative horns on their heads. The horns which erupted in the darkness of their thinking souls do not allow them to come out of the marsh of ignorance. Muslims must learn the Quran by heart and recite it every day and every night. Pray and bow and prostrate before God 5 times a day. Wake all the night in praise of your God and keep on repeating his name. Always keep with you the praying worship beads and repeat thousands of times any of the Quranic verse, the words of the Quran on this bead. Keep on repeating these words of the Quran, which according to Muslim faith are the words of God, and repetition of these words is the only way to solve your day to day problems and would finally emancipate you in the life here and after death. Subtitle 11. The Quran is a meaningless, filthy book. Throughout in the annals of history, the Quran is the most read and strongly believed book, which is widely and strongly believed all around the world. All backwardness, darkness, and ignorance are due to this book. I feel while reading the Quran that the author of the book was highly dishonest and was psychopath beyond any doubt. While he wrote the Quran, he was always under the fits of frenzy. People, without understanding the meanings of the words of the Quran, they close their eyes and take it as the words of God. They believe that each word of the Quran, like magic, it affects and reaches to the God instantly. They have no logic in their mind to put the text of the Quran to test, even though the text of the Quran lacks harmony. It is highly incoherent and inconsistent. It is a book with a lot of contradictions in it without any meanings or any lesson. In the Quran, one idea is given here on this page and then same repetition again almost 1000 miles away from the first. It is without context, which just depicts that the author was not a sane person, but he had written the things under the whimsical fits of frenzy, which are all capricious. God of the Quran was much impressed from the mystery of rain because the author of the Quran had the psychology of desert man who was always thirsty and have innate desire for rain. God here always tells the people that He sends the rain from the skies for them and exhorts them to be thankful to their God for their favor done to them. Rain is amongst His portents. God in the Quran has no idea how the water evaporates and that clouds are made to complete the cycle by raining. God, like a tribesman, is much impressed from the ships floating on the seas. God thinks that these ships are like mountains, and God claimed that in the Quran that He had made these ships to float for them. God repeatedly said that He rewards good people with gardens with streams of water underneath. God, like a just like a pimp offered woman and wine on the paradise to his good men. These are the allurements offered by filthy Muslim God with all measures of greed and bribery. This is the God who punishes the people, all those who do not believe him or have done sinful acts. According to God's law, they will be given the secretions of wounds as a drink in hell. Oh, filthy is the psychology of mighty God. Subtitle 12, that is of the chapter 11, Face to Face Against Islam. Subtitle 12, the grammar of the Quran is highly defective. In the very beginning of the Quran, there is a verse most important in Islamic ideology, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, which means that I begin with the name of God who is most merciful and kind. The Quran is said to be the words and the commands of God. It is believed that God by Himself has written the Quran, while God by Himself is saying that I begin with the name of God, who is merciful. This very verse is grammatically defective, where the way of addressing is wrong. If God is the author of the book named the Quran, He is not supposed to begin with the address that I begin in the name of God. It is the way people address. If I read the Quran, I may say that I begin in the name of God, but God cannot say that I begin in the name of the God. The true fact is that Muhammad had fabricated the Quran and by himself wrote that I begin with the name of the God. Muhammad forgot while writing the verses that he should write the verses in a way as God is addressing. Addressed verses of the Quran are grammatically wrong. It is the wrong way of addressing by God, the way of addressing from its very face. It is clear that these verses cannot be the commands of the words or the words of the God. Grammar of the Quran is highly defective. Sometimes, somewhere in the Quran, God addresses the man. And on the other occasions or on other parts, the Quran expressed as the man is writing on the behalf of God. While at the third place, the way to address is as that man is addressing to God. And at a fourth place, one group of men is addressing to the other group of men. So the commands given by God are diseased with forgetfulness and are inconsistent by their very nature of addressing and expressions. The book is nothing but the reflection of Arabic frenzy and illiteracy. Just it is an attempt to copy the Bible in a most awkward and vulgar style. Subtitle is 13. The concept of prayer is the most harmful and derogatory idea of the human society. The very concept of the prayer injures and damages the will and wish to work. It, it makes the man inactive and lazy, who is always waiting for God to help him or change his luck. In the religious societies, all the men are always praying to God, give me this thing, give me that thing, give me the palace of gold, give me pretty prostitutes, give me victory in war, destroy our enemy, make my son a king of the jungle, so on and so forth. The worshippers then they bribe God by reciting their so-called holy books, and they also give charity to poor people for that purpose. All these religious ceremonies are performed to get some reward from God. Earlier in this book, either in this book or the next word in paradise, either all these religious ceremonies are performed to get some rewards from God, either in this world or the next world in paradise. The prayer psychology is the psychology of greed, injustice, and indolence. This is a beggar's psychology, or it is bandits and swindlers. Swindlers' psychology to snatch the rights of the others and stillitly conspire with God to get the things without paying any cost. This psychology overall caused great harm, which had already destroyed and damaged each and every fabric of life and society. According to religious people, it is the will and wish of their God to make some person very rich and to other to keep them in poverty. From them, it is not significant to do hard work or not to do it. To build or to make the things with your own hard work means nothing for them. It is God who awards everything to all. Just wait and pray and see what God is doing. The concept of injustice is deeply ingrained in their minds to usurp the rights of others by becoming the favorites of God. A man doing work day and night might not get anything, and the man who just sits idle may get everything, even a kingdom. This is the unjust concept in their minds about the will and wish of their filthy God, which are polluted, which has polluted the environment of healthy society. You should sit silently, just keep on praying. You never know when God may listen and accept your prayer. Wait patiently to avail the opportunity and pounce upon the other's rights like a wolf when the opportune time comes. God can give you palaces even without work of labor, or God can snatch anything from you which is earned by hard work, even if you have earned this with all your dedication and honesty of purpose. This is the lesson how the religious religions teach you and train you under the impact of prayer concept. In reality, if the prayer to God would have existed, would have existed, then all the goats, sheep, buffaloes would have escaped from the frightful slaughtering hands of fate written by an awful demon named as God Almighty. Prayer is the egoistic, self-centered, greedy concept where depicted psychology is that let all the living beings go to hell. Only me and my God have the real friendship bond. I will be saved and rewarded at the cost of the agonies and miseries of others. God is my kith and kin, and I am the only important person to whom the foolish God is careful and kind with his benevolent love by awarding me the palaces of gold and diamonds. For everyone else, let there be miseries and diseases as they deserve as such. Prayer teaches you to commit the crime of injustice. Thus, Islam and all the other religions with the prayer concept educate the ideas of injustice, inequality, and greed through this widely spread disease named as prayer. When I talk about Islam, it signifies all the religions over the entire world, all the religions over the entire world, all of them are same in their actions and spirit of plunder and injustice done to others. Number 14, subtitle number 14, it is sacrifice. Each year, Muslims slaughters the bull, cows, camels, goats, and other animals on the name of Allah, the God, and they call it sacrifice, which is the continuity of the same biblical norms as those which are mentioned in the Old Testament and Torah. This is the occasion of Eid al-Zuha, the ceremony to slaughter the animals and eat them in the name of sacrifice to God. They call it sacrifice in the name of God. There is a full story in Quran as well as in the Bible that Prophet Abraham saw in a dream that God said to him to sacrifice his son Ismail on his name in the name of Allah God. So the Prophet Ibrahim took his son to deserted place to offer God the sacrifice of his son by slaughtering him. But merciful God had put a lamb in the place of his son, and lamb was slaughtered instead. From that ugly day up till now, the followers of Ibrahim give sacrifice and slaughters animals in the name of that blood loving God. In the Bible, it is said that Abraham had taken his son named Isaac for his sacrifice, but the Quran fabricated and changed it a little with twist on the story in order to maintain difference with the Judaism, where instead of Isaac, Ishmael, Ishmael was taken by Abraham by for sacrifice. As per the narration in the Quran, Ibrahim had taken the step brother. As per the narration in the Quran, Ibrahim had step taken his step brother named Ishmael for sacrifice. Steps. The Quran copied all those foolish and meaningless stories from the Bible, but with little change, with dishonest intentions. It is a matter of surprise that we cannot draw any good lesson out of these foolish stories. All these stories have impregnated and corrupted our societies for thousands of years. It is a matter of surprise that why God has the desire to get the animals slaughtered in His name. What is the link between the slaughter of an animal and the spirit of sacrifice? This is all beyond our understanding and comprehensions. Due to this fake story of Abraham taking his son for sacrifice in the name of God, under the impact of this false belief, there were many accidents of crime, many fanatics, those who saw the dreams with the same message of God, and they had factually slaughtered their sons. Animal sacrifices in the name of God, in fact, altogether change the very concept and spirit of sacrifice. Normally, sacrifice means that you by yourself forego your own interest for the benefit of others. But the religious sacrifice is wonderful in its meaning. Sacrifice in the name of God gives a new idea and new spirit altogether. Change meaning of sacrifice is that to cut the throat of others and bleed them on the name of God and then eat them. Similar type of sacrifice they do for each other. His subtitle is 15 Zakat, give poor tax in the name of God. Zakat, the poor tax on the name of God. Let us peep in the past before the advent of Islam. What is what is the view of Aristotle? Property should be private, but the people should be so trained in benevolence as to allow the use of it to be largely common. Benevolent and generosity. Benevolence and generosity are two virtues, and without property, they are impossible. That was the saying of Aristotle. Zakat, the poor tax, it is the concept of charity in Islam. Thus, purchase paradise from God in lieu of poor tax named as zakat. Islam does not believe in economic justice, so that is the reason Islam is the biggest enemy of Communism. Islam is the biggest enemy of communism. Islam teaches charity, and this ritual cannot be performed unless there are poor. So keep the poor at their place in order to perform these rituals of zakat and charity. Muslims say under the system of communism, we cannot perform the rituals of zakat and charity, which are so necessary in Islamic ideology. And of course, in communism, we cannot find poor people anymore because everyone is given the opportunity to work. So there is massive production in communism. If we combat against property, in fact, it is the war against the sovereign wish and will of God, which tantamount to idolatry, which tantamounts to idolatry. Other ugly and disgustful face of Islam that it makes other humans, all those who stand as beggars in front of their doors, they take them as the most contemptuous objects. Those human beings are contemptuous objects. They give the benevolent hand of Muslims, the rich benevolent hand of Muslims, they give scornful looks to all those who are imploring and weeping to get few pieces of bread as charity on the name of cruel God. They are insects creeping on this earth. This is the concept of human love which Islam teaches on the name of charity. Prostitution, intellectual or physical, is the direct consequence of inequilibrium in wealth distribution. All the people, all the people, those who have plenty of money, they purchase the bodies of women as prostitutes. Women, those who have scanty means of livelihood, become prostitutes through their through this blessing of God, called as through this blessing of God called as charity. Charity and prostitution run parallel to one another. Charity is another name for the contempt of others, and it builds false pride in the person who is on the giving end, and on the other side, it creates shame for all those who are accepting the charity. Both ways, it is filth and full of disgrace. Charity creates a chain of complexes in humans, which is very injurious for human pride and self honor. While in communism, fundamental needs of bread, cloth, and housing are the basic fundamental rights of everyone against the state as well as against society. If we argue with them that communism is the system which abolishes property and thus there remains no need for charity, they become angry that if there are no poor people, then how we can perform these rituals of God on the name of charity, including zakat. In order to perform the charity based rituals in Islam, poverty should remain intact. That is the will of their God. God had made poor people to clean the filth of upper classes, and they are made to work for them. God is all wise. Be thankful to Him. This is the culture which the Quran has established and educated. The Quran created two classes. One is the relative of God, one directly related to God, and others are slaves to serve the first one. Now, the subtitle is 16 of this chapter, the concept of rituals. The concept of rituals, Islam is degenerative, full of decaying and excremental elements. It is urination and it is all filth. Christianity is a nihilistic religion where a man denies his own existence as Christianity blames the man with two arguments against him. He tries to slaughter us with the double edged sword One allegation is the man is sinful by its very nature, while the other argument is that he is responsible for his good and bad acts. He is free to have choices between good and evil. Both of the above said viewpoints are negated by the modern social sciences. Man is neither sinful nor he is free to choose between the paths of good and evil. In rebuttal, we have following arguments to present. According to Christianity, man has the freedom and liberty to act and choose his ways amongst the good and evil. However, they are not able to establish about that what is the sin, because yet they have neither studied Hobbes nor David Hume, nor they have got any idea about genetics, nor that of the impact of environments. Even their God knows not about the brain cells, secretions of glands, and they're completely ignorant about the physiology, anatomy, sociology, or psychology. Without the study of these philosophers and subjects of sciences, to say that sin exists is quite a foolish argument. Their second argument hurled against human beings is that we are at liberty to take our decisions in respect of good and evil. We are at liberty to choose the ways. There is freedom. In the womb of the shark, baby sharks yet not gain their consciousness, they start to kill other brother babies. They are not free not to kill. Mosquitoes like small Mosquito like small flying wolves attack us to suck our blood. In their stings, they are carrying the buckets of poison given to them by God Almighty. A mosquito is more poisonous than a snake if judged in respect of its body size relative to its weight. If we kill a mosquito, we are called as murderers and killers. But if we don't act as such, he will be parasitic. This is the universe where we live. Choices look like to be as open and free for us, but under the curtailed circumstances, it is extremely difficult to take accurate decisions. Men are thrown by their luck in the cages of hungry lions. With our fragile thinking and vulnerable bodies, we are facing the canines where God is kind only to his prophet Elijah to save him from the hunger given to lions. But I am not Elijah. Where the will of God is only the gratification of lions' hunger with my flesh, as God had already promised to give food to all his creatures by what means that is not defined. God has already promised to give food to all his creatures, but but by what means that is not defined. Our liberties and freedoms are the same when we are thrown into this world by breaking our eggshells. We find ourselves in the cages of hungry lions. Maybe those lions are in the shape of religious ignorance, no way out from illiteracy, which they give to the newly born babies. All lives we remain in the slaves of our ignorance, all destined with the horrors of its consequences. Christianity is degenerate, full of decaying and excremental element. So said Nietzsche. Worse is the Quran and Islam. While 5 times prayer a day, prostitution and bowing, prostration, not prostration and bowing before God, this develops the psychology to beg and bow in front of strong forces of evil people. Due to this practice of Nimaz, the prostration before God, simultaneously, man man also becomes proud and arrogant on the face of weak people. This complex of arrogance takes its birth due to the false vanity that we are close to God. Due to Due to our regular prayers, God is specially related with us, and we are the kith and kin of God. While that is the moment when they start believing that God is friendly to them, and He is their exclusive ownership. In this way, they feel highly elevated. Their treatment to others become very nasty, and they take other humans just as small and low. History of Islam, which is full of wars and bloodshed, proves the very fact that the people who always pray and perform Islamic ceremonies, they become arrogant to the extreme degree of vanity, or drunk with the intoxication of religious wine. They become mean and petty in their characteristics. They are timid before strong, evil forces, while arrogant and cruel against the weak and noble people. It is 17, subtitle 17, Jihad, Slavery. Jihad and slavery. Yeah. The concept of jihad, Islam is in fact an imperialist religion which believes in conquest, brigandage, exploitation, slavery, murder, and rape. This is the real concept of jihad with the true spirit behind it. The name They name it as the war of good and evil, while they themselves are not clear about the very concept of good, what is good and what is evil. At the time of Prophet Muhammad, people of Arab were the tribes who were brutes and looters. They robbed each other, killed, and raped. Muhammad was not alien to them because during the kingdom of Muhammad, it is clear historical evidential proof that Muhammad by himself was distributing slave girls and booty plundered during war. While the best beautiful slave girls he always kept for himself to rape in the name of marriage. He kept 10 victim girls at one time as fake wives, and the 11th one, named Khadija, was a rich and strong woman. During the life of Khadija, Muhammad did not dare to marry any other slave girl or concubine. Khadija did not allow Muhammad to marry him during her lifetime. Subtitle 18, Marriage in Islam. The concept of marriage is that one man may marry with one woman and keep their mutual relationship of faith and love for each other till the end of their lives. But in Islam, the concept of marriage is the other name of prostitution, which is cohabitation without the free will of or free choice of a woman, where the will of the woman is obtained under compulsion. In Arabs, marriage was just like rape, where a woman had no choice to refuse. At the time of Muhammad, just verbally, if you say to a woman that I have married you, marriage was marriage was thought to be completed. And if you say three times one word, talaq, means divorce. Woman is divorced instantly as the will of the man, at the will of the man, whereas the woman has got no such choice to avert the decision of the man about separation. On the other hand, woman has got no such equivalent right to divorce a man to get herself freed from this yoke, the bondage of sometimes inflicted marriage. Man just gives food to the woman and keeps her as cattle and commits zina, the rape, with his own free will, while the woman has no choice other than the blind submission. The concept of marriage is only the relationship of faith, love, and combination of one man with the other. If we increase the number of women, even in the name of marriage, it becomes prostitution, where we pay money and food to the women who are resourceful, resourceless, miserable, and helpless. Then naturally, it is no more a marriage, but it becomes within the ambit of prostitution. It is the same example as if we keep the goat or deer thirsty, it would like to be in the cage to get the water. This is the woman with her free will in Islam. Muslims can keep four women at a time on the name of marriage, the legalized prostitution. Subtitle 19. Parda, the veil, face hiding cloak. Parda the veil, Parda the veil of a woman to hide her face, in fact, is symbol of her slavery to man. The veil is in fact a seal of a man who owned her, and by wearing the veil, she professes that she is the private property of a particular man. Muhammad had 11 women, 10 at one time, and countless slave girls were at his disposal, because in Islam you can fuck as many slave girls as you can. It is limitless. In ancient Islam, marriage was the other name of legal prostitution. These people of Arabic tribes, they were called Bedouins. They were the most illiterate and backward nation of the world, without the touch of any civilization. They had no concept of philosophy, and they lacked any schooling. They just worshipped the idols of stone. Muhammad was cunning. He just saw Christianity and listened about the Bible, an idea struck in his mind to, to copy Christianity and invent a new religion, to which he gave the name as Islam. In this way, he invented a new religion. He made a big idol to worship, revolting against all stone gods. Muhammad has taken Muhammad has taken this big imaginary idol and made it be seated on the throne out of sight in the deep skies, and told the people to worship that idol called God, and claimed his own prophethood. Muhammad was a merchant. Due to the riches of the Khadija, her wife, he married her. At the time of marriage, Muhammad was 25. Muhammad was 25, and Khadija's age was 40. Khadija was a strong lady. She was rich. During her life, she did not allow Muhammad even to look towards any other woman. But when Khadija died, the reins of Muhammad were loose, and he at once married many women. He kept 10 women in slavery by so called marriage. One of the Muhammad's wives, named Aisha, was of the age of 9 years when she was married to Muhammad. This was the state of affairs of the lusty so called prophet. All of these slave girls or married wives were always kept under mental imprisonment called parda, the veil, a face hiding cloak. They were always behind the veil, hiding their faces from all men except the person who owned them as property. Vulgar copy of Bible is titled as Quran. Vulgar copy of Bible is titled as Quran. While the Khadija was alive, Muhammad supervised her business and often traveled with the business trips of caravans. During those business trips, Muhammad was introduced with the word outside the Arab, where he met many Christians. and gained the knowledge of the Bible through them. Muhammad was cunning and crafty. One man named Warqa bin Nawfal, who was also the relative of Khadija, was a Christian who taught the Bible to Muhammad. Muhammad has stolen the book, the Bible, and translated it in very vulgar manner and pasted the title on the vulgar copy of the Bible as the Quran. He managed to write this book and told lies to the people. God gave him the message through revelation, and thus he declared himself a prophet. He allured the Bedouins of Arab, who were the worst desert living people of their time. He used Bedouin of Arabs as a tool to spread his false religion of Islam. Bedouins were the looters and robbers. It was told to them that in war they will not only get booty or spoils of war, but also will get slave girls for rape too. Your victories and conquest will open the doors of luck for all of you. God will also be happy with you and give beautiful women to you in paradise also. That was the major reason that Islam spread very fast. It was lust and greed psychology of gangsters which made Islam as the victorious religion. The triers of Rome, Iran, and Egypt will be on your feet. This was the major reason that big army was made on the name of Islam. Islamic army was nothing more than the gang of looters and robbers. It was their common practice that they first send the message to the king or leader of the other country to accept Islam. In case if this message was not accepted, then the second condition was to pay the tax on the name of protection given to them. Even this second option was also rejected. Then be ready for the war. The last one was the motive behind to inflict war and capture their traders and their women for sexual gratification, which was all done in the name of their Allah. Islam is the religion of coercion, threatens bloodshed and rape. After war, the vanquished population was always plundered. Each and every object of their household was being taken by Muslim. Men were slain or they were made captives, including their women. 21st, subtitle 21st. The Quran gives permission to rape the slave girls. Subtitle 21. All the populations of conquered countries were always enslaved. Their women were taken as concubines to rape by Muslim, the soldiers of Allah. Muslim God permitted all these things. He himself, it was legal for them as Muslim God permitted all these things by himself. It was legal for them, as even in Holy Book, the Quran, there is an ayat verse named as the spoils of war, where their God permits them to do all these atrocities. And the great Prophet Muhammad by himself distributed the spoils of war and slaves and concubines among the victors. It is a historical fact that once two men were fighting with each other to get possession of a pretty slave girl. One said, "This she's mine," and the others otherwise fighting that I will snatch her from you. The case was taken to Muhammad. Both of you bloody run away. You cannot manage and control her. Some other one more powerful man will snatch her from you. It is better that I must give her protection and keep her for myself. And then Muhammad kept her in the name of marriage. It is most important to remember that in Islam, the concept of marriage is not different from the act of prostitution. Muhammad was entitled to keep as many wives as he wanted. He could keep anyone. He can leave anyone without her consent. As per the Quran, ordinary Muslim could keep four women in marriage at one time. If he wanted to marry a fifth woman, he must leave one from amongst the previous four wives without assigning any reason for separation. Just of this, just of this own free will and remarry a new one, thus keeping their number of four to be constant. Countless slave girls were, in addition, what their right hand possessed. Muhammad even violated the law of the Quran to keep the four women as wives at one time. He married 11 women anywhere in Islam. A will or wish of a woman means nothing. She is no more than a chattel placed in the house. Quran promised with the Muslim males to give them the woman in paradise, but as far as the woman is concerned, the Quran is silent about their rights in paradise. The men those who will enter the paradise, they will reside there forever. As rewards, they will be given beautiful women, those whose hymen, vaginal in vagina, hymen will be impact, as mentioned in the Quran. They are called as hoods. Hoods will be virgins to them. Neither any man nor any genie would have touched, explained by Quran. Thank you. In We will continue in book reading 3. This. Thank you. See you again. Bye. And